Hello, I'm Wes the Explosion. My hair is drying and it's snowing outside. Also, I beat 8 whole games this week, so let's get started. Okay, admittedly, 7 of the games that I beat this week were actually listed as only one item on the list, that being the Capcom Beat 'em Up collection, which it has a bunch of their old arcade games. All of them are pretty simplistic. You use typically two buttons, the jump button and the punch button, and then also, of course, there's a directional input. That allows for some pretty simplistic combos, also things like jump attack and dash attack, stuff like that. So it's not terribly complex, but for the most part, it's just supposed to be a fun little thing you punch through. Well, I mean, it's supposed to be that and also a quarter sucker. One thing I'll say for this is, my gosh, I had a lot of fun with it, especially Armored Warriors and Battle Circuit, which I'm playing here. But if I would have had to play this in an arcade, constantly feeding it quarters, I would have got sick of it really, really quick. Fortunately, here you can just keep on hitting continue no matter how many times you lose, which is really just the saving grace for this collection. Now, each of these games also allow for 2 or 3 player co op. From what I hear, the online is awful, so I avoided that like the plague. I didn't want it to be, stop and go with all the lag spikes and everything. But I did get a chance to play locally, like one game, and it was fun. So that's like some added value there, just being able to play with various people. And each game only takes about an hour to beat, so it's not like it's a hard sell either. You're not asking somebody to play through some great epic or anything. You're just asking them to sit down, smack through a game in 40 to 60 minutes, and that's that. All the games play pretty similarly. As you can see here, you go, you punch them, there's a health bar for the enemies, and you just try and get to the other side of the screen. With a few oddball stages, like there was one surfing one in one of them, and there was also like a chase scene on motorbikes in another one. I think it was actually this one. And they vary a little bit in complexity, but not much. In Knights of the Round and King of the Dragons, you can level up your characters, which just give you more power and everything. So that's kind of interesting. And then there's like this one here, you can buy moves and different abilities and everything, so there's a progression system in that. And then there's frickin' Armored Warrior, where you don't level up or get new abilities, but you can swap out robot parts. Like, you can swap out your arm for your main weapon, you can swap out your legs to do some crazy jump attacks and also just change your movement speed. And you can also change out, like, your shoulder mounted gun. That one has an extra button for the shoulder mounted gun, I should say. And yeah, it was just a blast experimenting and everything with that one. So yeah, that would be my second top pick. Like I said, my favorite is probably this one here, the Battle Circuit. Just the characters had a lot of fun designs, like there was Dr. Saturn you saw earlier. I'm playing as Yellow Iris because of course I am. And then you got weirdos like frickin' this, Johnny. Some Elvis wannabe weirdo man, vocalist, guitar person. And yeah, it's just crazy. They went all out with the designs for this one. An odd thing worth noting is this is gonna sound strange for something called the Beat 'em Up collection, but it can at times be strangely violent. It happened in Captain Commando first, where you can be brutally killed in it. Think very, very crappy graphics. Well, that's a bit insulting to this. A lot more quaint graphic versions of fatalities. We were in the one samurai level, and then we were cut in half, which was a little unexpected. Then there was another point where we got burned, and we just, we got burned to a crisp. Pile of ashes afterwards. Then there was another time where we got hit by acid, and then we melted down except for the bones that just kind of collapsed. which, it's nothing compared to a lot of things, that you see today in games, but it was unexpected. So that was neat. So anyway, just in case it isn't obvious, my recommendation for this is if you like these sorts of games, play them. Not in arcades, because you will end up spending a lot more quarters than you ever frickin' wanted to. But if you got a copy of this at home, great. And if you have a friend you can play it with, even better. Then I played through Azure Striker Gunvolt, by which I mean I finally finished it. By which I mean I got the bad ending, which I mean I might go back and try for the good ending at some point. I just need to collect the 7 Dragon Balls, make a wish for a crappy necklace, and then kinda just screw myself by wearing it for the final boss to get the really real final boss. But that's something we'll worry about later. Anyway, if you ever played the Mega Man Zero or ZX game, this is done by the same people, which is why several of the elements in those games make a reappearance here, such as like the dash. There's a good focus on like moving around pretty well and everything, and also the wall jump. But as opposed to having your guns to take down enemies or even a sword, in this one you use a gun to tag your enemies, which links you to them, and then you just kind of use your electric powers to fry the hell out of them. You can tag an enemy up to 3 times, which does progressively more damage faster, and you can also tag multiple enemies for more things at once. Now, when you use your powers to fry them, it puts up a blue barrier around you, which will link itself to whatever you're locked onto, which is kinda neat visually, but it's also a lot of visual noise, so sometimes it can be very hard to tell what the hell is going on. It also makes it so that you have to put more of a focus on dodging, I guess, because you're still free to move when you're doing the electric field. But that's kind of a contradiction in the same way, because it makes you slow fall when you have the barrier up, which does hamper your movements, but also lets you utilize that state in unique ways as well, in case you're trying to slowly fall to avoid a beam that you couldn't dodge otherwise. There's also some RPG elements. You level up, which grants you a little bit of extra HP each time, and it also increases the number of skills you have. Now, you can have up to 4 skills equipped at a time, and you get so many uses on them per level, so you kinda gotta budget them. There's also materials you can get, which you can combine into equipment, which you can use to make yourself stronger. So, yeah, there are ways to get better loadouts and everything. I will say it is a little odd that they seem to expect you to grind in an action game. That's not really what I was thinking when I was going into this, but once I got to the final boss and couldn't beat it, when I looked it up, I was about 15 levels under what other people were doing, so I did have to go back and grind a little bit, not quite up that high. But it did give me the edge I needed to sneak out a win. As for the story, when I first played this game, I only vaguely understood what was going on, so starting near the end of it, I mean, I definitely didn't get the full picture, but I got a vague sense of it. There's a lot of weird terminology that they want you to pick up really quick. And yeah, even, like I said, there's a bad ending, which is super depressing, and then there's a good ending, which I watched after the game, which still pretty depressing, just slightly less so. So the whole game and everything does seem a little edgy, which makes sense if you take a look at some of the other games they've made. I mean, Mega Man Zero wasn't exactly rainbows and sunshine, and in ZX there's a plot point about how one of the characters gets orphaned at a frickin' amusement park. Jeez. Overall, the game is fun, and it does have a lot of fans to recommend it as well. So I'd say if you get the chance, you can play it, even if this isn't your type of game. With the leveling system, I mean, eventually you will get to the point where you're probably just
able to beat it due to how much HP and materials you have to craft better stuff with. So, either that or you could play Mega Man ZX, which I think is a bit more accessible to, beginners. Only two games because nobody frickin' bought ZX other than the really, really hardcore Mega Man fans like myself. But whatever, it's not like I'm annoyed with that or anything. Not like they left the game on a frickin' cliffhanger that, we only vaguely understand what happens afterwards due to context.
Okay, this week was a little lighter on the game side of things. Honestly, it was a bit of a tough week, so I either didn't have time some days, or other days I just didn't really feel like it. That's probably why I ended up watching a lot more things than I ended up playing. Spent a good bit of time on Netflix this week. Watched Disenchanted Part 3, which is probably the best part of Disenchanted thus far, but it is still less good fantasy Futurama. Watched Project Power, which it was fun. It was fun. And then there was also Dora Hedora, which I still don't know if I actually like or not. I think a big part of me just likes Noe in that show. I don't know. I'll watch part 2 if they put one out, but I think that's only because I want to see the big, beautiful muscle lady. Any other thoughts, opinions on it?
So, despite the whole 8 games thing, only two things end up coming off this week: the Capcom Beat 'em Up Collection and Azure Striker Gunvolt. I think I'm gonna try and do at least a little bit more of the yellow games, which those are the ones I started but for whatever reason put aside. The challenges with that are remembering controls and what I was actually supposed to be frickin' doing, and also the fact that for most of them, there were probably reasons why I put it aside and didn't pick it back up. In the best of cases, it was because I was playing it with someone else, that there wasn't anything inherently wrong with the game, and with the other ones, there was probably some sort of issue I was having with it, whether it just be difficulty or just mechanics being a pain in the butt. But we'll see. I still have a good number of games left, so I don't want to burn myself out. Speaking of which, I've been seeing a few other people pick back up Animal Crossing, and I've been thinking about doing that again. The penalties for being away for a while don't seem as harsh as it does in some of the previous games, but I know it'd be a huge time sink, so I don't know. Anybody out there actually interested in seeing that sort of thing? Me visiting my town after 6 months? I could totally record it. Let me know in the comments or whatever. But for right now, I think that'll do it for this week. If you feel like it, come on back next week where my hair will probably be dry, and regardless, thank you for watching.